In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create these nice labels here in the segments of every arc, but also have a background color that will adjust itself, or the length of it will adjust itself based on the text label. So let's explore how to do this. So let's start to look how to do this. The first thing what we need is we need our boiler template, which you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started. Going to scroll down here and copy this chunk of code and you're good to go. Next, if you want to get the source code of this video and many others, check out my Patreon page and of course join the Discord channel. All these links are in the description box. So the first thing what I want to do here is of course to create a polar area chart. So we say here for the bar, we say polar area. Save, refresh. Alright, that looks quite nice. Let's remove the scales here, or at least this scale. Save, refresh. Beautiful. So now we have this. I want to make sure that these texts are in here, but of course have a nice background color as well. So to do this, I need a custom plugin. So I'm going to say plugins. And then here we're going to say here segment text cloud. And I'm going to copy this. We're going to say here constant this equals ID of that, and then we're going to say here after the data sets has been drawn, then we draw our items, chart, arcs, and plugin options. There we are. So once we did this, we're going to start working with the object destructuring. We're going to say constant equals chart, and then we're going to say here ctx and data. There we are. So once we've got this, we can start to draw our items. So what do we need here? Well, we'll be needing a few items. First of all, we have to make sure that we can create the text and then after rotate it accordingly. So to do this, let's start to look first how can we rotate this. What we need is the center of this, and then whatever the text is will be here, or the cloud bubble. Let's start with the cloud bubble first. We start here from this center coordinate and then move somewhere here up and then rotate it accordingly. That's basically the visual or the mindset behind that. So to do that, I need to understand rotations, and that's what we're going to do first. So I'm going to say first of all ctx.save to start saving all variables above, and now we're going to work on it. What I need is a few things. Before we do the rotation, I need to know, for example, from this angle all the way to here, what will be here to calculate the center value. That's number one. The second item that I will need is how much do I need to rotate. Luckily, all of these we can find if you do console log. Let's say chart.getDataSetMeta. Index 0, let's save that, refresh, open up developer tab, there we are. So we're getting all this information here, and what I want to do here, if I go here deeper into the data, we get the arc information. You can see here, these are the x and y coordinates at the center. This will be later on very important, but if I open up this even more, we can see here the following: the ending angle and the starting angle. So the starting angle is this point, that is minus 1.5 plus plus, and the ending angle will be here, and that is minus 0.67. So all this information helps us to calculate, because basically I need to have the center of this. So that will be this divided by 2, or whatever the difference is, divide by 2. And we're doing all these kind of tricks here. So don't worry about that. What I first want to get is first, how many pixels is from this point here all the way to the end. For that, we can find here the outer radius, which is 326. And if I click on number 1, which would be for the blue one, it should be shorter than that. I'm going to look here for the outer radius. The inner radius is 0, that is the 0 here, but the outer radius is 217 plus plus. So all of these are important for us. Let's start to work with that. So we're going to say here constant, and we're going to say here our outer radius will be equal to all of this dot data, and let's do first data set or data point index 0 dot outer radius. So once I got this, we can now start to do this. Another one is the starting and ending angle. We have that here as well, and angle, start angle. So I'm just going to copy this. We're going to use that one. And then we're going to say here, start angle. Copy this, put it in here. And then we say here, end angle. And we copy this and put that in here. So once we did that, refresh. All right, we've got all these coordinates here, but of course we need to still work on more. So what I want to do now is figuring out what would be the center here. So we have to calculate that one. And how can we calculate that? Well, basically we're going to say constant center angle, or the center of that, and that is basically the starting angle plus the end angle, and then we say divide by 2. Make sure that this is prioritized first before we do the division. So once we have that, we'll get a certain value. So now what we can do is start drawing the item. I guess we can move this one down. And what I want to do here is the following. We're going to save this, and then we're going to say here, because I want to calculate this rotation. For that, I need to start from here, this point in the center. This center right now is considered, if I look here somewhere in the data, it is 350 by 366. This is fine, but it becomes very, very complicated for me to calculate from this point as I rotate everywhere else. So what I want to do is I want to say now that this point will be renamed as the new 0 point. So this is the center, and we're going to make sure that that x and y will be equal to 0. To do that, I'm going to say ctx.translate, and then we're going to say here the new translation of 0 will be the x and y point, and I realize that we don't have them assigned yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab that and say here, this will be an x and y. And just a quick note, you can see for every index, these numbers are identical. So it doesn't matter because they all have the center point of this here. So then what I can do here, I'll just say here, x, and then this x will be equal to x, and then we have the y. And the y will be equal to y, or maybe you could say here y or x center. That's probably better, y center. So we're going to say translate, comma, and then we say here for the y center as well. There we are. So once we did that, if I refresh, it does all crazy stuff here. It starts to rotate and do something weird. What we have to do here is this save. Go down here, make sure you have the save here up, and then we say here restore. If I save that, refresh, it will keep it all normal or back in place. So make sure you do that as well. So next is the rotation. So if I'm going to create an item, or let's create first a text or something. So what I'm going to do here is let's create the so-called bubble or cloud. So I say ctx, you can just say here cloud box or something like that. And we're going to say ctx.begin path because I want to create a new shape that is independent of anything at all. So we have this is a new shape, and this new shape here we'll say fill style. Make sure we have a ctx, of course, because this here is related to the canvas, to draw in the canvas. That's the command. And then we say here this will be, let's make this black for now. Then what I want to do here is we create these rounded borders rectangle. So I say ctx.round rect, and then we're going to say here what I want to is, well, I need to get the coordinates for this. And what I need is the x, the y, the width, the height, and the border radius. So that's the R. So let's say 10 pixels in border radius. The height will be 20 pixels because the font will be about 12. So there's like 4 pixels up and 4 pixels down of padding. That's acceptable. For the width for now, I will just make it 50 pixels. And then the x and y, well, let's do that one. Right now we translated this and say that this center point will be equal to 0. So if I say 0 and 0, save, refresh, and of course nothing happens. And the reason why is we didn't give the command to draw. So that will mean here ctx.fill, save, and there we are. Alright, so that is nicely done. And if I say here x and y center, put it in here, what will happen? If this is the 0 point, it will recalculate down to 350 or 366, whatever that point was. And you can see here it is somewhere down. So if I make here this 50 by 50, it will basically say go 50 pixels from this point to the right side and then down. And there we are. So that's it. Alright, so we're getting this, but what I want to do is I want to make sure it moves up, or at least in the right position. So for this, what I can do here is, let's say here 0, and let's say here this will be 100, or not even 100, let's say minus 100. And what I want to do is eventually to rotate this accordingly. So what I'm going to do here is calculate the so-called outer radius that we need here. And then, well, let's see, we can probably put it in here. If I do this, what will happen? There we are. So as you can see here, we're getting here, but the outer radius I want to be in the center. So what we can say for the outer radius, divide by 2. That will make sense. So I say divide by 2. There we are. But now it is not yet in the right position. So that's what we're going to do next. So this was a bit tricky for me as well. So you can see here, we're right now a bit off. And the reason why is I have this negative 100 that pushes it up. I want to do it down here. So I just put it on 0. So it just doesn't move at all. And you can see here now it works quite nice. Just the rotation needs to be sent here. So how do we do this? I need to have, after the translate, we're going to say ctx.rotate. This rotation gives us the values that we need. And in this case, what are the values? I need to get what we call the center angle here. And then we can just probably copy this, do this, and let's see what happens. There we are. You can see here, this starts to work quite nicely. But if you look very carefully, we're not in the center. Why are we not in the center? The reason why is we have here this width, or the height is 20. So if I want to be in an exact center, I need to go up 10 pixels. So what I can say here, negative 10, refresh, and now I think we're nicely in the center. Beautiful. Alright, so what I want to do now is I want to rotate these all and create them for every one of them. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say here, let's say for every chart, so we're going to say chart.getDataSetMeta index 0. And then we're going to say here for every data point, and that's why we have all of these. Later on we have to put them in here. I want to grab, instead of this, I want to say here, well, we need to do a for loop for this, for each loop. And I'm going to say here, for every data point, I want to have the index, function arrow expression, and then I'm going to cut out this item, put that in here. Put this in proper indentation, and then, alright, so minus 10 here, or sorry, we have this for each loop. And then what we want to do here is all of these information, all these points here, basically, we can cut them, or these two are allowed to be left there because those are consistently the same. But these here, cut, we can just put them in here, proper indentation. But then we say here, of course, the index. We need to make sure we get the index, so we will always get the number that's matching with that. So once we did that, save, refresh, there we are. Let's get the colors as well. So we had here black. I'm going to say here, because we have here the data, we can just grab that color. Data sets index 0 border color. I'll take the border color because the border color is nice and strong. It's a solid color. So it's an index, no background or no transparency. So there we are. So now we have this here. That looks quite awesome. What we want to do next is, of course, having the text in here. Secondly, what we have to do here is, of course, this cloud or pill shape item should be in the length of whatever the text is. Right now it's very easy, but let's give some other options. Monday, and then here we have super long. Alright, let's do that one. That's fine. And then later on we're going to nicely put that in there. So what I want to do here is the following. We're going to, we can probably restore this, although we can just do it here down. We want to, instead of restoring it, we want to keep it in place, this translation, so we can just continue on. So we're going to say here for the text, I'm going to say ctx.fill style, and the style will be white. I think that's fair. We have white. Then what I want to do is ctx.text align, and then this will be center. And then finally we're going to say ctx fill text. Of course, we're going to put that in here. Before I even do that, I do realize I forgot to define the font size, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do here is ctx.font. I'm also going to say here what will be the font. It will be bold, 12 pixels, sans serif as font family. So if you don't want any of these, or you can remove these, or you can change it, whatever you want, but these are the standard items that chart.js uses, with the exception of bold, but I think that would be nice for the items here, or the data labels. So then we have to fill text. What I need here is basically the text value. We need the x and the y coordinates. Since we have a lot of these things already done, we can copy this, and then we just put that in here. So another one here will be, we want to have here the text. What is the text? I'm going to say data sets index 0 dot oh, not even, I think we can just go directly through the labels. That is labels, data dot labels. So we go back here, let's correct that, data dot labels, and then of course the index. Finally, for the y, let's save that and see how this will look like. Alright, we get an error. So we cannot see here, the y is not defined, and I think it's y center probably. There we are. Are we, well, to be honest, this should not be, this should be just 0. My bad, because we already are in the right text. Alright, so as you can see here, it is working, but with a big exception here, the text is not aligned nicely on here. So what I want to do here, first of all, is say text align center. That's already done, but the width is definitely off. So what I need to do here is, let's grab this one here. The reason why I'm going to grab this, I need to preset the font type and the amount of pixels before I calculate the width of this text here. And I'm going to show you later on why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and then comment this out, and then I'm just going to put that in here. So we're going to define the font type and the pixels, and then we're going to say here, this item I'm going to grab, I'm going to say, well, let's say your constant text width equals, and then we're going to say here ctx dot measure text. So that's a method to calculate how many pixels in thickness the text is, or in length. I'm going to put in here the text, and there's a dot width. Once I did this, I can copy this, and I can calculate basically here, or sorry, not in there, but here the width, that's 50 pixels right now, static, but I want to do this automatically with what we have. Let's save that, refresh, and as you can see here, it's starting to get better. What you do see here is exactly precise fit. I want to have some padding left and right. So let's say here, in this case, we could say plus 12 pixels. So we have 6 pixels to the left, 6 pixels to the right. That is the goal. There we are. We have more space, but still not aligned nicely. The reason why is the starting point here is basically here. Let's calculate it. Well, the text is supposed to be here, but we set text alignment center. So then it will put the center of the text here. That will mean that the width needs to be 50% to the starting point here. So what is that exactly? Or we can maybe check here. Can we just add up additional width here? That's probably more practical. On this one here, this is the X value that we want to change. We're going to say here plus, let's say here plus 40 pixels, for example. And as we do this, you can see it start to move correctly. But of course, we need to make sure it is based on our text width. So we say plus text width, but I want only the half of it. So we say half, 50%, like that, divide by 2, save, refresh, and now it is absolutely phenomenal. Looks nice in the center. So let me just show you why this would not be practical if I hide this. If I do this, right now it looks all fine. But let's say I will just calculate the text width, and then I'm going to say here the text width will be 20 pixels. You will see it will not consider the adjustment. And the reason why is there's a default set that's being calculated on, which is 12 pixels Arial non-bold. So we have to make sure we define this first before anything else, or else it will be too short in size. As we make this bold, you can see it will work fine. So of course, let's make this back to 12. Looks far more nicer. Save, refresh, and there we are.